up, book lovers? It is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about the retellings slash reimaginings that are on my TBR. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out, and you can participate in a 7 on Sunday topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. This was a topic I scheduled a few years back, and I had fun compiling my list of books that just so happened to be fairy tale reimaginings, or mythology reimaginings, or reimaginings of all sorts. And honestly, I'm not getting tired of retellings and reimaginings. In my personal opinion, they are making a comeback based on how well they are doing on Kindle Unlimited and kind of almost everywhere else. And yeah, I do like myself a good take on a fairy tale or story that I'm familiar with, but also I do tend to lean in the direction of reimaginings and retellings where I don't know the original myth or legend or fairy tale either, or I'm just not really well across it. I mean, there are some myths and legends that I do find myself struggling with fatigue when reading a reimagining of them. I mean, perfect example of this right now, King Arthur. Any Arthurian legends I'm really struggling to get into. I do like Legendborn, but I feel as if I can only really get into Legendborn and that's it. But you know what? There are readers out there who are sick and tired of Beauty and the Beast, and I will never get tired of Beauty and the Beast because I clearly have issues. And yes, there will be a few Beauty and the Beast inspired picks on this TBR. However, this whole TBR was not inspired by Beauty and the Beast, so rest assured, those who are sick and tired of me talking about it. So I guess without further ado, I guess I should show off my TBR to you guys. I do have a few physical copies, but majority of this TBR I am waiting to buy because I do want to get them eventually and I do want to read them eventually. But what's on my mind? I'm gonna share that. So first and foremost, I have to mention that I want to read To Bleed a Crystal Bloom and the Crystal Bloom series by Sarah A. Parker. If you guys don't happen to know, this is a Rapunzel reimagining. And I've only read one Rapunzel reimagining in my life so far from what I remember, and that, my friends, was Cress. I loved Cress. And I also loved the movie Tangled. I am a huge fan of the movie Tangled. I think that film was pretty well done. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of every Disney princess movie out there, but Tangled is definitely one of like the top tier ones in my opinion, and it's definitely one that I can see myself rewatching to this day. And I don't tend to pick up Rapunzel reimaginings at all, and I think it's because I've never really connected with Rapunzel beyond Cress. Like, I love Cress so much in the Lunar Chronicles. I do personally feel like I can connect to Cress, and I also very much appreciate Rapunzel in the movie Tangled. But I'm kind of nervous to go into any of a Rapunzel reimagining because I'm kind of scared I won't be as attached to those two characters. So fingers crossed for To Bleed a Crystal Bloom. Sarah A. Parker is also an Australian author, and I want to support local authors, and this series right now is absolutely blowing up on the internet, so I want to read this one. I'm hearing really good things about it. I'm hearing that there's spice, there's some steam. I'm not too sure if this one has like a hate to love dynamic, but I am hearing that there's some really good romantic tension in this series, so I'm hoping that I will love this series. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of getting Plated Prisoner vibes every single time I see fan art or anyone talk about it on the internet. I barely know anything about it except that a lot of flowers are involved and it's a Rapunzel reimagining. So we'll see how I go with To Bleed a Crystal Bloom, and hopefully I like it. The second and final physical book I have on this TBR, the other ones are on my wish list at the moment, that I have to mention is, yes, a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, and that, my friends, is Heart of the Fae by Emma Hamm. I have actually read Emma Hamm previously. I actually read a Goblin King reimagining series by Emma Hamm, and I did enjoy it. I was a little bit nervous reading more by Emma Hamm because as much as I did appreciate that Goblin King reimagining series, I think that it went on for a little bit too long and I wasn't engaged immediately. But once I got to book 2, I was hooked. Heart of the Fae, I had no idea was a Beauty and the Beast reimagining when I first heard about it, but what I do know is that when I first heard about Emma Hamm, everyone was screaming about this book. They were saying that everyone needed to read it. And I recently saw this paperback on Amazon for $13, and that never usually happens for indie paperbacks on Amazon Australia. Usually the average price for a indie paperback like this is roughly somewhere between $25 to $30. So it was a bargain for for me. That price also pushed me in the direction of actually picking this book up. I hope that I get to it sometime soon, and I hope that I fall in love with it because I do love Beauty and the Beast, as I've mentioned many times on my channel. I am just looking for my next Ruin of Roses experience, my next Deliciously Dark Fairy Tales experience. I just want to be so invested in the Beauty and the Beast reimagining and not seeing a problem with it, seeing that the Beast goes through character development, seeing that the Belle is strong and brave and can fight and protect herself, and that they have like a healthy dynamic. That's all I want in a beautiful Beauty and the Beast reimagining. I'm hoping I get that with Heart of the Fae, but I'm not done with the Beauty and the Beast reimaginings here. The next Beauty and the Beast reimagining I have on my retelling TBR is The King's Bride by Beck Michaels. And you guys may or may not know that Beck Michaels is the author of the Divine Blood series or the Guardians of the Maiden series. That is another series that I do have on my TBR, but from what I know, that series is not a reimagining or something. It could be, I don't know. But I am very much looking forward to The King's Bride because, once again, I'm trash for the Beauty and the Beast. I actually heard that the series that The King's Bride is set in is going to be a fairy tale reimagining series, so I don't know what else is slated in the series, but technically I'm putting the entire series on my TBR because I hear that Beck Michaels' writing is absolutely magnificent, and I just want to read more romantasy because that seems to be my favorite genre slash subgenre. I'm hearing really good things about The King's Bride. Once again, I'm just hoping that I have a really good experience with it because I've been burnt before. I don't want to be burnt again. I'm just hoping that I eventually find more Beauty and the Beast reimaginings that I love than Beauty and the Beast reimaginings that I hate. If that makes sense. And the third and final Beauty and the Beast reimagining I have to mention on this TBR today is actually one that was written by Elizabeth Briggs, Beauty in Darkness. And unlike the other two Beauty and the Beast reimaginings that I mentioned on this TBR, this one was written by the author of one of my favorite series of 2023, the Zodiac Wolves. I love the Zodiac Wolves series so much. I got deeply invested in the Zodiac Wolves, and I believe Beauty in Darkness got written sometime before Zodiac Wolves. I hear okay things about it, but it's a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, and I really loved the way that Elizabeth Briggs was able to tell the story of the Zodiac Wolves. I just found her writing to be absolutely entertaining, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I will find Beauty in Darkness to be absolutely entertaining and engaging. I am pretty much wanting to pick this up for two reasons. It's a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, and it's written by Elizabeth Briggs, and I want to read more by Elizabeth Briggs eventually, and I thought, what better way to do that than try out a Beauty and the Beast reimagining that she wrote. So I'm looking forward to Beauty in Darkness, and I hope to get to this one sometime soon. However, Beauty in Darkness is not the only book that she wrote in this series. The second book in the series is actually a Snow White reimagining, and it is titled Kiss of Snow. Unlike Beauty and the Beast, when it comes to Snow White reimaginings, I don't tend to read them immediately. I don't tend to get excited over them. I mean, some of you guys know the situation with me reading the Entangled with Fae series by Tessandra Odette. Tessandra Odette is one of my favorite authors of all time, but I put off reading her Snow White reimagining in her Entangled with Fae series for a year because Snow White reimaginings don't tend to be my priority when it comes to fairy tale retellings slash reimaginings, and I do want to get more invested in Snow White reimaginings. I did read the Lunar Chronicles, and I read Winter, which is the fourth book in the series, and I didn't have the best experience with Winter, and that's probably because I didn't really connect to Winter as a character, but I do plan on rereading the Lunar Chronicles eventually, so I'm hoping that I will change my mind about Winter as a character, because Winter seems to be the favorite character of many. She's just not my favorite character. I think I'm just more connected to the first three girls in the series, but I do want to give Winter another chance. I think I also read that 800-page book really quickly as well, so I didn't really have the time to connect to Winter as a character. I'm kind of hoping that with Kiss of Snow, I will connect to these characters, and once again, it's written by Elizabeth Briggs, and Elizabeth Briggs wrote one of my favorite series of this year, where I got absolutely attached to the characters that she put into the Zodiac Wolves, so I'm hoping that I will become attached to the characters in this series, and not just the characters in the Beauty and the Beast reimagining, but the characters in the Snow White reimagining as well. Hopefully I can recommend it to those who are looking for a Snow White reimagining, and who who's wanting to read more, because I've barely read any myself. And these next two reimaginings just so happen to be by the same author in the same series as well. I am kind of curious about The Forgotten Phantom by Catherine Ann Kingsley. I don't know anything about The Phantom of the Opera. I've never watched The Phantom of the Opera. I've seen the guy wear the mask, but I know nothing about the story. I know, guys, I'm uncultured, I get it. But I would like to read this reimagining of The Phantom of the Opera to see whether or not I would be interested in exploring this story going forward, because it's an absolute classic. I'm hearing everyone absolutely rave about The Phantom of the Opera, and I have friends who like it, but I'm ashamed to admit that I've never traveled into that territory. So I'm hoping eventually that will change. And I'm wondering if maybe the best way that I possibly could get into The Phantom of the Opera, or just like dip my feet in, is by reading a reimagining. So I've decided that I want to read this one by Catherine Ann Kingsley, especially because I want to read the second book in this series so bad anyway. So I just figured, why not? And the second book in Catherine Ann Kingsley's creature feature series is The Vengeful Vampire, which just so happens to be a Dracula reimagining. But a Dracula reimagining with a happy ending, meaning that the two characters like get together and the relationship is healthy, whatnot. I just want to read more Dracula reimaginings, especially after reading A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. If you guys don't know, A Dowry of Blood was the first book I read in 2023, and it was the first 5-star book I read in 2023. It is one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I adore it so much, and I am just wanting more Dracula reimaginings because of A Dowry of Blood. And I saw that The Vengeful Vampire just so happened to be up for pre-order at the time that I discovered it, and I put it on my TBR, but it was listed as number 2 in the series. That's why I put The Forgotten Phantom on this list as well, because I want to get to both of them, but I want to read them in order. I don't know if they are related in any way, but they are part of Catherine Ann Kingsley's creature feature series, so I am just going to assume that maybe there's some sort of crossover in the background eventually. But I could be wrong. It could just be an anthology series that she decided to put under a specific grouping and therefore make a series out of it. To sum it all up, I just want to read more Dracula reimaginings. I still need to read Catherine Ann Kingsley though, because I have 2 series on my TBR by Catherine Ann Kingsley, and I am putting these 2 books on this TBR as if she's like one of my favorite authors already, when I've read nothing by her. I really hope that these 2 books just so happen to be new favorites, and that Catherine Ann Kingsley just so happens to be a new favorite author after older reading. And last but certainly not least, the final reimagining that I wanted to put on this TBR. I mean, I have many reimaginings on my TBR in general. I mean, I still have the Never After series. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that one a few times, so that's why I didn't want to put it on this list for the sake of being repetitive. And I have some other dark romances that are inspired by mythology, whatnot, but I just made a fresh list here. The final one that I will be putting on this fresh list is A Court of Sugar and Spice by Rebecca F. Kenny. This is a Nutcracker reimagining, and I was absolutely intrigued because I love the cover, okay? Like, it wasn't the title, because obviously the title sounds like A Court of Thorns and Roses or A Court of Honey and Ice. It has that same title formula, I get it, and it also has a court in it, I know. But this is a Nutcracker reimagining, and I saw its cover and I just knew it immediately had to be mine based on the cover. But I've heard really good things about this one because it's one of those spicy Nutcracker reimaginings. I'm also curious about it because the only Nutcracker reimagining I recall getting into as a kid is the Barbie Nutcracker movie. That is the only Nutcracker reimagining I think I remember. I don't think I've ever read a Nutcracker reimagining. I don't even know if I've ever experienced the original story of the Nutcracker. I just remember the Barbie Nutcracker, okay? So I kind of just want to refresh my memory, but also read a very good story. And to top it all off, I am also looking for more holiday recommendations because I want to read some of these festive books during the holiday season. And I'm hearing that this one is good and it is a fantasy one, so I reckon that I might get to this one hopefully this year. It depends on my budget. I might purchase it for this year, but if I don't, it will always be there hopefully, fingers crossed. And I also heard that this series is a Fairy Tale Reimaginings series as well. Yeah, actually, the second book in the series is called A Court of Hearts and Hunger, and it's a Wonderland reimagining. I'm hoping that I like the first book enough to continue on with the next book. I read Escaping Wonderland this year, and I'm kind of hoping that there's another Wonderland reimagining that just meets that level, because I was so blown away by Escaping Wonderland. I love and adore Tiffany Roberts. I do hope, fingers crossed, I am invested in this Nutcracker reimagining, and then we can see where we go from there. Hopefully I can discover a new favorite in Rebecca F. Kenny as well, because I had never heard about Rebecca F. Kenny before this book blew up during the Christmas period, so we will see. I will let you know once I get there. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the sparkle emoji, and if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias. I'm at GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.